this is Miss Anne, and welcome to another Monday book tasting. Today we're going to be reading Scary Stories for Young Foxes by McKay Heidricker. And following the story, I'm going to give you a few good read-alikes. So if you end up finishing the story, or if you're looking for more that are similar in nature to this story, we'll be able to hook you guys up and find you guys some really good books, good read-alikes for the one that we're going to be reading today. So this is a story of 6 interconnected stories about young foxes or fox kits who are fighting to survive in the unforgiving wilderness. So we're going to read the prologue and then either the first or second chapter depending on time. And here we go. The haunted season had arrived in the Antler Wood. The sky grayed, the leaves blushed red, and mist coiled through the trees like something alive. Even the pumpkins began to rot and show their true faces. On these chilled autumn nights, it was best for fox kits to remain near their den on the edge of the wood. There they could feast on apples that tumbled from high branches. They could hunt from smoky acorns and crunchy stick bugs and juicy mice. And when dusk turned to starlight, the kits could return to their den, tuck under their mother's fur, and be soothed by her heartbeat. "Tell us a story," the alpha kit said one misty night. "Make it scary," the fourth said, yipping and hopping. "Yeah," said the third, snarling. "So scary our eyes fall out of our heads." "Please stop biting my face, children," their mother said. The kits behaved themselves while she smoothed out a bed for the night. "Let's see," she said. "How about Rattlebones?" "Mom," the beta said, rolling her eyes. "You told us that story when we were 2 weeks," said the alpha. "It's boring," said the fourth. "Very well." Their mother began ripping out roots that had snuck through the den's walls. "How about Willoughby Wallaby and the Floating Paw?" "Seriously?" the fifth kit said. "That story wouldn't raise the hackles on a field mouse," said the fourth. "It's kit stuff," said the third. "Well," their mother said, "those are the stories I know." 7 little foxes sighed. "Sorry to be a disappointment," their mother said, lying down. She paused and looked at the kits with all seriousness. "But you must promise that no matter what you do tonight, you will not go to the bog cavern." The kit's ears perked. "Huh? What's a bog cavern?" the alpha asked. "That's where the old storyteller lives," their mother said. "If you go there, you'll hear a story so frightening it will put the white in your tail." The kits stared at their thin, dusty brown tails with wide eyes. "Wait a second," the fourth said, looking at the fluffy white end of their mom's tail. "You heard the story?" "Only part," she answered. "I wouldn't repeat what I heard for 1,000 mice." The kits gave one another a meaningful stare. They didn't want some toothless story like Willoughby Wallaby, which could be forgotten with a shiver and some milk and a lick on the cheek. They wanted a story so scary it would prove their bravery and change them forever. All except the little one. That was. She preferred the sound of her mom's heartbeat. Yes, it may have been wise for fox kits to stay close to the den once the leaves began to fall, but the fog and the frost and the old crimson moon had stirred something in their whiskers, and so they waited till all was quiet, save their mother snoozing, and then 7 little foxes slipped out of their den with a mission to scare some white into their tails. 7 kits snuck into the night, over the log, around the stone, across the creek, and through the grass, and deep into the Antler Wood. The trees threw up their limbs as if to frighten them away. The little ones slowed at their warning. "Come on, Sticky Paws," the beta kit whispered. 7 kits crept through the woods, beneath the bone-white branches, past the broken trap, beyond the cave of snoring, over the human bones, to the entrance of Bog Cavern. Roots dripped over its mouth. Fog oozed from its throat. The kits squinted into the darkness, but saw nothing but a pile of bones and skin. "Is the storyteller dead?" the 5th kit whispered. The 4th kit sniffed. Sniff, sniff. "Doesn't smell dead." "Someone go nose it awake," the 3rd kit said. "Don't look at me," said the beta. "I like my nose." "Shh, said the alpha. The bones stirred, then jerked up so abruptly every one of their kit paws left the ground. The little one scurried behind her beta sister. The bones sat themselves upright, forming a sort of fox silhouette. Eyes flashed green in the darkness. "What have we here?" the storyteller said with a voice like spilling dust. Sniff, sniff. Grovelers." The beta gave the alpha a nudge. "Oh, the alpha said, voice cracking. "Would you tell us a scary story, please?" The fox kits clamped their muzzles shut. The little one hoped this was enough to get her siblings to scurry home, but no one budged. The alpha cleared his throat and delivered the speech he'd prepared. "We're smart enough to know that stories are as harmless as the wind through the leaves. They cannot pluck our whiskers, or break our bones, or strip our skins." A silence grew behind the roots, so complete it seemed it could suck the kits into the darkness. "Sure of that, are you?" the storyteller asked. 7 little foxes tried not to shiver. 2 of them succeeded. "All scary stories have 2 sides," the storyteller said, "like the bright and the dark of the moon. If you're brave enough to listen and wise enough to stay to the end, the stories can shine a light on the good in the world. They can guide your muzzles. They can help you survive." A cloud slid off the moon and shadows reared up around the cavern. The antler woods seemed darker now that there was light. "But," the storyteller said, "if you don't listen closely, if you turn tail from the horror and don't stay till the end, then the darkness of the story can swallow all hope. It can frighten you so deeply you'll never want to leave your den again. You'll waste away the days with your mother, forever smelling like her milk." The wind pawed at the leaves. The moon shined on the gray fur of the storyteller's face. "So, do you still want to hear a scary story?" 7 little foxes gulped. Only the alpha nodded. "Come closer then," the storyteller said, "and we'll see which of you makes it to the end." The alpha marched forward. The 3rd hesitated a moment and then followed. Then came the beta, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, trembling. The littlest fox gazed back through the antler wood, over the bones, beyond the cave, past the trap, beneath the branches, through the grass, across the creek, around the stone, over the log, toward home. She breathed deep and padded close to the cavern with her siblings. 7 little foxes sat and listened. "Our story begins," the storyteller said, "in the Ivy Wood." And so we start with Miss Vix. And given our time, we'll probably only get to 1 chapter in Miss Vix. Here we go. The sun was only just peeking over the peak's leaf trees, but the heat was already crisping the leaves and steaming the creek and making the dying fields too bright to look at. Roa, Marley, and Mia trotted towards the dappled shade of the Ivy Wood, tongues lolling. The grasses buzzed deliciously around them, but on these high sun days, the grasshoppers were as dry and sour as birch bark. "What'd you think we'll learn today?" Roa said. "Hopefully about shadows and holes and how to take naps in them," said Mia, panting. Marley was busy rolling in something smelly and didn't hear the question. "Come on, Mar," Roa said. "We're gonna be late." Every morning, when the sky woke white and watery, when the owls were tucked into their trunks, and snakes had not warmed up yet, the kits gathered beneath the learning tree for their lessons. Their teacher was called Miss Vix, and she taught them what they needed to know, while their mother tended to the hunting and the den. In their first few weeks outside the den, Miss Vix had taught the kits how to swish their tails through the reeds, to stir up a buzzy explosion of insects, which they could snap out of the air. She taught them how to point their muzzles northward when hunting, waiting for the claw of the sky fox to draw a hazy ring of purple around their prey. She taught them the bird song for eagle and snake, so they knew whether to duck or jump when a predator was near, and when there was no birds in the treetops to sound the alarm, Miss Vix taught them how to perk their ears and listen for the sounds of large feathers brushing the wind, or golden scales parting the earth. Months from now, after the breath of autumn blew red into the leaves, the kits would celebrate their golden-eyed day, and they would set out to claim their own territories. But until that day came, they would learn how to become proper foxes. Something flopped fatly across the three kits' path. Roa sniffed the creature's damp skin and pond breath, and gagged, "Blech! Toad slime." "Catcher gets belly," Marley said, hips in a wiggle. Mia collapsed in the shade of a wilting rose bush. "Too hot." Marley bounded after the toad, while Roa gazed towards the learning tree and sighed. "Don't worry," Mia said, fixing him with her blue swirl eyes. "Miss Vix won't get any less pretty, and your eyes won't get any less blue." Roa scowled. He tried to think of a comeback, but instead his ears twitched. This sent Mia into hysterics. "So it's true!" She rolled onto her back and addressed him upside down. "You want to marry Miss Vix and start an adorable little den with her." He tackled his sister, and they lashed at each other with their milk teeth. But the day's heat quickly made them both give up in a panting puddle. There came a wet plop into a nearby pond, and Marley came bounding back, shaking mud from his muzzle. It was too slippery. "Psh," Mia said, rounding to her paws. That jumper was as dry as dust. She trotted towards the learning tree and called back to Roa, "Come on, Mr. Vix." Roa followed, grumbling. It was true that Miss Vix had honeyed eyes and lush black ears and golden fur that smelled like butterfly dust, and it was true that the tip of her tail was as white as cloud fluff and her boots were as black as the space between the stars. But Roa didn't want to start a den with her. He wanted to be like her when he grew up. He admired the arc in his teacher's back whenever she pounced on her prey, the way she could sniff out a scuttle from a distance of 300 tails, and how she had once stolen a badger's feast, piece by piece, by nipping at the badger's ears and getting it to chase her. The three siblings continued on, panting. They passed the sluggish river, fish glittering in the sun. They passed the bush with shriveled raspberries that tasted as bright as lightning, and they passed Lumpy Prairie, where cottontail season had finally come to an end. The grass was growing, brittle, and baby bunnies were no longer as easy to pluck as blackberries off the vine. "Melting," Marley said. "Evaporating," said Mia. Roa just panted. No bird sang in the Evie woods that morning. The leaves rasped like an old, dying snake. That's about 14 pages into Scary Stories for Young Foxes, and that just sets up the first of 6 little scary stories. So if you enjoyed this book, and if you get a chance to read it, there are some other good read-alikes. Some of them come from a list that I found on Novelist, but one particular story that I think you'll really like if you end up reading this one is Pax. Again, it's about a fox, and also it's Pax's relationship. Pax is the name of the fox, and his relationship with his master, which is a young boy who is looking for him in the woods. So Pax kind of goes off on his own, accidentally, and his owner is looking for him. So it has dual perspectives of the owner and the fox themselves. Another good book is Nightmares by Jason Segel. These books have like that scary story kind of vibe, and it has the subject of witches. You might also enjoy Doll Bones by Holly Black. That one's, again, it has like a creep factor. It's not necessarily a scary story, but it does have that like little bit of creep factor. And you might also enjoy The Graveyard Book, both the graphic novel version, but also the original, which is Neil Gaiman's book, which has like supernatural monsters and ghosts. So if you like a good ghost story, I think you'll enjoy the books that I've mentioned, but also if you like foxes. Alright, you guys, we are done for today. We'll be back next week with another Monday book tasting, and as always, we hope to see you very soon at our library.